Edwards here. Oh, I've got some lighting issues. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank goodness it looks like I'm sitting in the light again. Welcome to Live at Lunchtime today. Today I want to talk about time management and scheduling. So as some of you will seen that have been following my Facebook page or my Instagram for a while, you'll see that I'm getting married quite soon. So I am actually in the countdown. There's about, I think, 1, 2 weeks until I leave and head to the US. So while I'm super excited, and then I'm gone for 6 weeks, so super excited, can't wait to do this. But there's a lot to get done before I can go away. And a lot of that is taking a lot of kind of time management and scheduling skills. Now, luckily, these are a lot of the skills I gained while I was building my rent-to-rent business. So I've got them and I'm able to kind of manage the time. So whether you're planning a wedding, planning how to build your business, managing your tenants, there's some kind of key simple things that you've got to keep in mind. First one is be flexible. And this is one I'm just throwing in off the cuff there because you can see that my camera keeps going dark, it keeps going light. Um, Basically, my light just broke. 2 seconds before I turned the camera on, I went to turn my kind of special lighting on that I use when I do videos, and it broke. It's basically laying next to me on the sofa. So, not cool. Also, what happened this morning? Oh, I have everything all scheduled out in my diary. I got in my car to drive to Oxford, and turns out that there was a big traffic accident. And while I saw that there was one on my sat nav and I saw that there was a different way that I should be going, I got into kind of like the zone when you're driving, and I basically just followed the same path I always follow straight into traffic. So instead of it taking me half an hour to get to Oxford today, it took me an hour. But you know what? Those things happen. So make sure when you're scheduling things, you schedule some flexibility into your schedule. Don't make everything like back to back to back to back to back because there's always things that happen that you weren't expecting and that take a little bit longer. So make sure you've got that flexibility. Otherwise, you're just constantly running around feeling like you can never catch up. Another thing to keep in mind is to actually schedule everything in. So the busier I am, the more I use a scheduling tool. Now, whether you use one that's kind of in paper and you've got one of those paper diaries that you write everything down in, most of my team uses those. Or you're a bit more digital like me, I use Google Calendar. It plans out my entire life. When I'm really, really busy, that's when I use it even more. So I make sure I've got all my stuff slotted out for the day so that I don't forget anything. When I'm not quite as busy, it just captures kind of like my bigger projects and my repeating tasks. So every Thursday morning, I have yoga. So yoga's in my diary every Thursday morning. Every Thursday, I also have a massage. So that's scheduled in every week. So then I plan, so basically I set in the kind of non-negotiables in my days, in my weeks. And I schedule those all in ahead of time. And then I build everything in around those. Now, another great thing to do is try to group tasks. There's a lot of different ways of doing this, and I've tried quite a few different ways. So you can play around with it and see what works for you. But for me right now, because I'm so busy, I'm trying to group a lot of it by kind of where I'm doing it at. So I'm limiting my trips to Oxford. So my on top of being super busy, my property manager is on holiday at the moment. So I'm having to go to Oxford a bit more and do viewings. Now, I can't do viewings most of this week. So I had kind of Monday and Tuesday evening, I did viewings. The rest of this week, I'm not. I did have to do a checkout this morning and meet my handyman where they're kind of refurbishing a brand new property that we've just taken on. Um, so I'm planning in kind of groups of things so that I'm not constantly running all over trying to figure out and doing a whole bunch of different things all the time. So I don't go back and forth to Oxford every day. I simply kind of plan in and do as much as I can on individual trips because it takes me at least a half an hour to get there, or like today it took me an hour and then a half an hour to get back home after. So try to group things and make sure you're not making, more trips or doing tasks more often than necessary. And yeah, the biggest thing though is just make sure you write things down in your diary. So if you want to, start doing viewings, write it down in your diary that this weekend between, 12 and 4 on Saturday and maybe, 1 and 3 on Sunday, whatever times you're going to do it, put those blocks of time into your diary. Even though you haven't got the viewing schedules yet, block it out in your diary so that you don't plan anything else around that. And then you're going to need to block out some times to schedule those viewings. So maybe you'll have to schedule an hour tonight and 2 hours on Friday to look through Rightmove, call agents, and get the viewing scheduled. So whatever it is that you're planning to do, make sure you schedule it in ahead of time as kind of non-negotiables. And when you're building your business, you need to build up the momentum so you don't have to do loads and loads and loads. I'd recommend making sure you've got at least one small project every single day because that's how the momentum builds up. So you start with little bits and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, make sure those are scheduled in as non-negotiable time. Also, like my massage this afternoon, schedule in some free time so that you've got that downtime to kind of sit and relax and come back into yourself so that you're not completely burning yourself out. Now, it doesn't have to be a massage. Maybe it's a simple walk. Maybe it's just, a little bit of time to kind of sit and meditate or just to veg out in front of the TV. You can schedule that time in there as well because that way if it's scheduled in, you're not trying to do it all the time. So if you schedule in, here's my half hour of TV time, you don't have to worry about getting stressed out and then schedule it, not scheduling it, but then just watching TV for 3 hours in one night because you've got nothing else scheduled in. So I'm a huge fan of using schedules. I'd suggest that while you're building your business, you use the tools and use the scheduling because I know a lot of people don't like to do it. And I didn't really like to before. My whole goal in getting into property and rent to rent was to have that freedom. I wanted to have time freedom. I wanted to be able to do whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. But in order to kind of get to that point, we have to spend some time right now doing some of the things that we might not want to do very much. And one of those things might be kind of having that schedule, having that diary, and making sure we're super, super structured. So have a think, is it worth it to be really, really structured for 1 year and be able to have the time after to be flexible and have more time off and not have to use your diary? Because most of the time my diary isn't booked out now. Again, it's just got the kind of key big things I'm working on with lots of open space. Right now it's back to being super, super scheduled and structured because I'm leaving in 2 weeks and I'm going to be gone for 6 weeks. So I need to make sure I've got stuff done. So I've got those skills that when I'm really busy, I can plan everything out. The rest of the time I've got that freedom and flexibility that I'm looking for. But it takes time to build up to it. So hopefully some of those tips will work for you. And I will see you again next week. Next week will be my very last live at lunchtime, or at least my planned scheduled one, because after that I am off to the US and I will be basically turning down and focusing on my family. So thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see you next week and have a wonderful week.